fourth generation Bluftonian. Many of you know her as the owner of Spartina Marine Education Tours, and if you haven't had the opportunity to go, they're unbelievably fantastic. Amber is a wealth of knowledge. She has an undergrad in biology, a master's degree in marine biology, and she has been involved with the sea turtle. How many years now? 23 years. So she's here this morning to talk about sea turtle nesting season. Amber.
Good morning, everyone. It is definitely morning for me. I work on the beach until 1 or 2 in the morning, so I think I said yes before I found out it was at 7:30 this morning. So just bear with me. This is going to be a quick presentation about last year's season. This year we're not quite done yet. We've just gotten done with nesting season, but we're in full hatch season, and that will go through October. So it is a very busy time for me. Tourists and turtles show up at the same time. So my boat business and my turtle role is extremely time consuming. 2020 was an interesting year, of course, for everyone. For us, it was. DNR had a lot of restrictions on us. We couldn't patrol together in the beginning, so one person went out every morning. We couldn't have guests in the Jeep, but now it's let up a bit, but hopefully it won't go back. So our mission is to, of course, find nests on the beach on Hilton Head, and we also do several things for education and outreach, including public turtle talks all summer and promotional projects. This is what we're looking for. Each morning at 5 a.m. we get that Jeep out on the beach, hoping to get out there before the tourists do, and we don't want them to set their chairs up on top of the nest or that sort of thing. Just by experience, I can tell you that the eggs are right there inside of that red circle. After 23 years, I can look at it and tell. But we use a probe to verify eggs are there, and many times we move it. In fact, over half the time we'll move it further landward, away from the water line, because sometimes the tide is high on a full moon. When a turtle nests, it might not be a full moon. And so the dry sand is there, but on a full moon it won't be. This is our nesting graph for 20 years. We used to get excited if we broke 100. Now we're disappointed if we don't get at least 300. This year we stopped at 283 nests, so 291 was close last year. About the same, a little below average, so if it doesn't improve next year, we're going to be a little bit concerned. We do a DNA project where since 2010, we take one egg out of every nest. It has the maternal DNA on the outside of the shell. We send that to the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. Anybody? I'm the only one. 2. Okay, so the scientists there can take the DNA off the outside of the shell, tell us who laid it, what year she's visited our beach, what other beaches she visited that summer, who's her sister, who's her mother, who's her grandmother. We have 2 grandmothers nesting in the state of South Carolina. You have to be 30 to nest if you're a loggerhead sea turtle, which is the species that we get. If she's a grandmother with granddaughters nesting, she's at least 90 years old and she's still laying eggs. So we know that now. We also know who's nesting for the first time. So with our highest year, 463 nests, we had 132 individuals, and 11 of them were nesting for the first time. We do research projects, or I do research projects. This is the 3rd year of this study. We put a temperature probe in each nest. We know that the sex of the animal is determined by the temperature of incubation in the second third of incubation. So if it incubates during that time period above 84.2 degrees, it becomes female. And if it's incubating below that temperature, it's becoming a male sea turtle. So their laid eggs are laid genderless, and then the temperature determines. We know that Florida, because of climate change, is producing all females, which is a problem. Other countries have taken eggs and manipulated the temperature to make sure that they have males. With our restrictions in the Endangered Species Act, we aren't allowed to do that at the moment. My averages are around 88 degrees. We're doing this to test the sand. Hilton Head is a renourished beach, whole thing, except for maybe less than a mile. I have one control beach, and it's around Alder Lane, if you're familiar with beach marker 52. But the north end is renourished by a Bay Point borrow pit, and the south end is renourished by a Barrett Shoals borrow pit. And the sand coming out of that south end is very fine, and the one on the north end, if you've ever been to Port Royal Plantation, it's really shelly and coarse. It changes the temperature of incubation with the air spaces in between coarse sand and shell, and then the finer sand is a little bit different incubation. And I could go into that, but it's going to take a while. But we found that, the average high on the natural beach is the highest, which is interesting because you would think the natural beach would be the best incubator, but it's going to be very high. 95 degrees is lethal, and the averages for the south end are the lowest. We had last year 5,551 loggerhead nests in the state of South Carolina. We contributed 291 to that. This is a website called seaturtle.org that's public. You make an account, they don't send you anything, they just separate you from me and what information I get versus what you get. But you get an overall how many nests have been laid each day, nests all throughout South Carolina. We have had on Hilton Head since 1991, one Kipps Ridley sea turtle, which is one of the 7 species, the most endangered, 5 green sea turtles, 6 leatherbacks, and 5,648 loggerheads. So, 99% of the time it's going to be a loggerhead. Our emergent success started to dip, starting in 2016 after the renourishment. It was concerning because it kept going down. We found that on the ends of the island where the turtles like to nest, because you have sea pines on the south end and Port Royal on the north end, both of those developments are primarily residential versus tourist rental properties. So they prefer those dark beaches, quiet beaches. But we found that on the ends of the island it's very erosional. So in the first mile and a half of the north end and the first mile and a half of the south end, we move all of the nests because 80% of those nests were less than 20% successful. And ever since we've moved those nests into the interior of the island a bit, they have been more successful and went up 72%. So turtles are emerging much better since we're moving them away from that erosion. Disorientation is when a turtle goes the wrong way because of beachfront light ordinance violations. We lose over 30 nests every year, over 4,000 hatchlings because people can't turn their lights off after 10 p.m. if they're staying beachfront. So this is a major problem. Last year we lost 13%, which is the highest. We had the beach ordinance rewritten recently. It took me 3 years to get town council to change a few words in that ordinance to make it a bit more enforceable, but there's still no tickets issued, just warnings. And I found out last night that I had issued a warning on Monday, and they told one of the turtle trackers, which is another volunteer group, that they just weren't going to do it because they paid too much money to stay there. On the beach at night, doing light patrol with code enforcement, I took this picture because this house looked like it was on fire. I think if you are inside this house that your pupils must be the size of a pinhead, because I had to squint to look at it, and they must have gotten adjusted to it, I don't know, but it's just ridiculous. The house next to it would draw a hatchling. The one to the right is what we like to see, and of course the one with all of their lights out, because it's probably around midnight when I took this picture. But if you're on vacation, you don't have a bedtime, right? You just stay up as long as you want. So for the season opener of 2020, I found the worst offender is in Forest Beach, Ibis Street. And I asked the owner if I could replace all 8 of his exterior light fixtures on the fascia, Oceanside. I asked him if I could change all 10 of his dual fluorescent tube lighting under the story where the shuffleboard cord is. And I would pay for it, the installation. He said, sure, why not? So I had $5,000 to do that. I got light fixtures that were downward facing and shielded, put some red bulbs in there which help with the attraction of sea turtles. They're not attracted to that wavelength. I put LED recessed lights understory and put them on timers, and it did not draw any hatchlings. And so it was to prove that you can fairly cheaply, if you own a house on the beach, you can afford that $5,000 upgrade and prevent hatchlings from coming to your property. Of course, in 2020, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was in the local Life magazine, but we thought it would be a bigger deal than it was. This is another project, Myrtle, the sea turtle. This is an actual turtle that we tracked with DNA. We've tracked her since 2011. She nests every other year, which is not typical. It's usually every third year, so they skip 2 years. This one only skips 1. She lays up to 8 clutches in a season. So average is 4 to 6. And her average clutch size is 150 eggs in a nest. So she has daughters, so she's at least 60 years old, and she only nests on Hilton Head. So we wanted to showcase her, and she was due back in 2019, didn't show up. 2020 didn't show up. So we're a little concerned that Myrtle may have come across some issues. On Hilton Head, we have a big problem with holes. And I grew up here, and to be honest, I didn't go to Hilton Head very much. I had a 15-foot Boston whaler on the May River, the Keys, when I was 12, which is the worst parenting skill you could possibly imagine. And I didn't need to go to the beach besides the sandbar and the water and the boat. But apparently, you have to be entertaining yourself and moving the whole time you're on a beach. You can't just sit there and relax. You have to bring a full-size garden spade to the beach and dig a grave. So in 2019, November, we had the town council pass an ordinance that says you cannot dig a hole deeper than 1 foot. It cannot be dug with a metal shovel. The shovel can't be bigger than 30 inches, and you must fill your hole before you leave. How hard is that to enforce? Impossible, right? So we have to educate people, and for me, it's like Groundhog Day. Remember Bill Murray, Groundhog Day? Every Saturday, a completely new population comes to Hilton Head, and I start from scratch. We have signs. Part of the ordinance is do not leave your personal property on the beach. So 4 nights a week, I go out with a master's degree in marine biology to pick up trash. And the reason I do it is because I do not trust a contractor to go out there while turtles are approaching the beach to nest and hatchlings are making their way to the ocean while they're driving a truck on the beach. So I do that until 1 or 2 in the morning, which is what I did last night. This particular turtle came up to this in the night, scared off by it, and didn't lay her eggs. So that's the problem with personal property left on the beach. This is a problem because hatchlings and adult sea turtles can fall into the hole and be injured or not get out, and the hatchlings will be eaten as soon as the sun comes up. But the reason the ordinance was passed is because we said to Hilton Head, hey, we've brought this to your attention that we have a lot of these holes, and we've documented them. If somebody falls in that hole, now that you are aware of it, you will be sued when they break their leg. And that's how we got it passed. Turtles, schmirtles. So last year during 2020, I shut the boat down because I didn't want to put people in close contact on a boat. Even though it holds 20 passengers, I just took a contract with the town of Hilton Head, and I was on the beach talking to tourists and asking them to fill their holes, reminding them about the new ordinance, don't leave things on the beach, it'll disappear. And of course I came across holes constantly that were left behind. And when people saw me filling it in, they felt sorry for me, so they would come help. And that's heartwarming there, but not until they saw me struggling to do it did they think to fill in the hole. And then I got to explain to them why. A lot of things happened last year that were interesting, including the dune catching on fire in front of Beach Market 104 during 4th of July weekend. Almost burnt down beach of tennis in Folly Field. I called the fire department because I just happened to be there when it started. It started just very small and the wind was blowing, and within, 8 minutes, it was fully involved. So with the firework hitting the dune, this is what happens. Fireworks are not allowed on that beach. This year I went out on 4th of July, it looked like Disney World. and fireworks are not allowed. When I called the police department, they said, Amber, we've got way too much going inside the island, we can't come to the beach. So luckily there wasn't another fire. We put dumpsters on the beach last year for the first time ever, 6 of them. You should have seen the look on locals' faces when they saw those dumpsters coming down the beach. Just that alone was really bad enough for the town to say, okay, next year we can't do this, it's not cost effective anyway, but that's how much trash we're experiencing on the beach, is that we need a dumpster on the sand. Trash cans get filled. Now we have this landfill thing going on where you have to have, restricted use of dump. So people from the condos are bringing their kitchen trash down to the beach to deposit them in the trash cans on the beach. So we hire, Town of Hilton Head has contractors that pick up trash almost 24 hours a day. There's only 6 hours in the day between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. when they're not picking up trash. So this is a typical night for me. I have a trailer that's 12 feet long and 6 feet wide, and I will fill it on 14 miles of beach with things left behind, and a lot of it is this. This is a tent skeleton. You can buy these tents for less than $100 at Walmart. They're not meant for the beach. If the wind blows or you knock into it or something hits it, it bends, it won't fold. So you have to leave it on the beach. You don't have bolt cutters with you if you're on vacation. I happen to have bolt cutters, and that's where I got this cut last night. Cutting these things down so that I can put them in the trailer. This is what I collected. Over 1,000 chairs, 262 of these tents, over 1,000 towels, toys, umbrellas, the whole shebang. And we started to document the trash. These things also take flight. In this particular instance, if anyone had been sitting in that chair there, they would have been impaled by the tent. This is an alternative that works, right? If it breaks, you just wad it up and put it in your bag. This is Stumpy. Stumpy is a turtle that made front page of the Island Packet in 2017. She was stuck behind the dune at Singleton Beach. She has 3 flippers. So it's hard for her to get around. We started documenting this turtle in 2012, and then she was missing for 5 years. And we used to take them out of the catalog after 5 years because we figured, well, they're dead. They're not coming back to nest because they nest every 3rd year. So we gave them an extra 2 years, and if they didn't come back. But she did. Obviously, when she was nesting in 2012, she laid plenty of nests and they were successful. In the interim, she was bitten by a shark, which took her flipper off. She had to heal the flipper before she could come back and feel robust enough to nest. So she did. She came back in 2017 and she came to Hilton Head. And this is when she was rescued from the dune. I took a picture of her the next day. And it happens to be the turtle. Remember the tent I showed you where she walked up and turned around and went back? That was Stumpy, same turtle. So she's missing that back of the flipper. I can tell by the track it's her. So when I'm on the beach at night picking up trash and looking at the tracks, and after 23 years you start to notice things. I can't explain it, but you just do. And when she walks, her shell hits the sand. So where the orange marks are, see that shell mark where the edge of the shell is, she's wobbling. So she does this a lot. She digs a hole, but she can only dig this far because she's missing one of the diggers, right? They dig with their back flippers. So she knows the hole isn't deep enough and she abandons it and she keeps doing that. So I ran into her, not literally, there's her track, on this dry sand. I came across her tracks twice last year on trash patrol, and I followed the track up the beach, and I took my digger out, this little hand digger, and when she dug with her right flipper and put the sand to the side, shifted her body over, I stuck my hand in there, tick, 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 and then she'd shift it back over and do her part. You gotta move your hand because they're 400 pounds. Tick, 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 tick. And we eventually got the hole and exactly how deep it needs to be. And she kept feeling the edges like, whoa, did I do that? It's been a while since started dropping her eggs, and then she covers it back up, and she pushes on it, and I helped her cover it up, and then she left. That happened twice. It actually happened 3 times, but the other turtle had a stump. So it was a little bit different. But this nest, one of the nests was like right just in front of 73B, which is near the Sonesta. Nest number 151 is 70% successful, which is excellent. Guess where they went, all the hatchlings? The dune, because someone left their light on. So after all that effort, turtle with 3 flippers digs a nest with the help of my help, and they hatch, and they're great. We lost 93 hatchlings to that incident. So our last nest hatched last year, a little early, October 9th, we were done. This year we have 2 more green sea turtle nests, so it'll be through mid-October when they hatch. That's when I crash and burn, is when the last nest hatches, because I've got boat tours, I've got turtles, I've got trash. The fact that I'm standing upright right now is an effort in itself. So I hope you guys appreciate the information that I have, and maybe next year I'll give you the update for 2021 when we get all the numbers together and find out what our nest success was. I'll share that with you. Does anybody have any questions for me?
First off, I'm amazed with all the information you guys gathered on these things. I mean, it's just incredible. The last slide you indicated there were 93 hatchlings that I guess didn't make it, right? That's because you guys walk through the dunes and see them laying there. I mean, how is that?
The track, it's about this big, and when they come out, they all come out together. The majority of them, I would say 80%, 90% of them come out. So you have this mass of tracks, and you can follow them into the dune. Usually they end abruptly because a ghost crab got it, or the sun came up and a bird snatched it. We find them in swimming pools. We find them under boardwalks. So occasionally we do find live ones that were undercover, or we can put them next to the water and give them a chance. But once they see that light, I've picked them up in the dune on trash run this year at the Dunes house in my shirt, run them down to the beach, put them next to the water slaps them in the face, and they go right back to that light. So it's like candy, they can't take their eyes off of it. We don't know why, we just know it happens.
How many volunteers do you guys have doing this?
We started all these things in 1985. I started in 1998. And of course, I did this in South Florida at grad school, and I did this in Hawaii as well. But when I came home, I started working and volunteering. It's a volunteer organization, by the way. No one gets paid. We have 15 staff members. I have to have a permit from the state. I'm the permit holder for Hilton Head Island. There's one for every beach. And I am responsible for training people to operate under guidelines, and if they don't, then it's me that gets in trouble. Because of the Endangered Species Act, it's very specific on what you can do with an endangered species, eggs, parts, dead ones even, you can't take off the beach. So 15 people is all I can manage. So I started another nonprofit with a Sea Pines resident in 2016 called Turtle Trackers. And they're in the paper all the time, the magazines. I know that if you live in Bluffton, Hilton Head is kind of like a faraway place. I understand that. Afghanistan, and you know, they have names for us and we have names for them, but that bridge is like very big. But I'm constantly back and forth. I have the amber persona in Bluffton and the amber persona in Hilton Head. I'm the turtle lady over there. I'm the tour boat captain over here. So they do things that don't require a permit, and they're hugely helpful. There's 350 of them. There's 6 chapters in every beachfront community. They are women and men that go out each evening, fill in holes, pick up trash, talk to visitors, explain to them about the ordinances. They come to town council with me en masse to show their support. They go to the festivals. They help me with rental properties, rental management companies, and approaching them with, we've got doormats, we've got stickers, Everywhere you go in Hilton Head, there's that little cling on the window that has the green turtle with the bullet points. That's Turtle Trackers. So they raise money as well for informational and promotional things to increase awareness.
Yeah, tell them also, you don't just do turtles, you do other things. Tell them about some of the other things.
A lot of volunteer work. In my field, especially when you focus on such a narrow subject, it's really hard to make a living doing that, which is where the boat comes in. So if you come to SpartinaCharters.com, you're supporting sea turtles, but I also volunteer for NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and I pick up all the dead marine mammals in Beaver County, and I'm the only one that does it. It's really hard to get people to help me go into a riding dolphin elbow deep. So I do necropsy on them. I take their head, I take samples of all of their organs, I sex them, I measure, I GPS, I freeze it in my chest freezer on Aljoy Road, and I drive it to Charleston. And from the head, the brain tissue will tell them if it's a bacterial infection that killed them. If it was a viral infection, the lung samples will indicate whether it had pneumonia or not. I've had dolphins that had rotting fetuses, so that means she couldn't pass her fetus. I've had them with a hard intestinal tract, which means there's an impaction there, something that's blocking them from going to excrement. So there's several different things that can happen. I've had, boat strikes, blunt force trauma, just the things that they will come up with because they are federally protected with the Marine Mammal Protection Act, 1972. They have to keep track, government has to keep track of the dolphins and whales. And, had pilot whales, pygmy sperm whales, dolphins, primarily bottlenose dolphins, and then the stillborns. So every year in the spring, last year I had 3 stillborns. With the dolphins that have that, they push them around for 3 days. Dolphins are extremely intelligent, and they know that calf is dead, but they push it around as a grieving process. And don't tell Noah, but they say, okay, ever go out and get that calf from her. You've got 3 tries. After 3 tries, it's federally harassment, so you can't continue. And she pushes it down, and she swims with it, and it'll float back out to the surface. And so I go out there, and I take pictures, and then I turn around and leave, because I'm not going to take a dead calf away from its mother. And I said, I tried 3 times, and I just couldn't do it. So by the time I get it, it's pretty decomposed. But that goes to Charleston. This year, huge crop. Well, huge. There's like 5 or 6 cows out there and 0 stillborns. So I'm really excited about this year. I have no fetal or neonate deaths. So at least that I could find or that were reported. So that's good news. I should have said that earlier. You already got it. Okay. So that's the other thing. So mammals, turtles are reptiles, by the way. And this effort on the beach is going to stop in October, but we will continue to do our awareness projects throughout the year. And also the marine mammals are year-round. All right, well, thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Very educational and a lot of trash out there. You got 3 Rotary clubs on the